My phone auto-connected to my wife's SUV on the way to a showing, and the infotainment screen lit up with an incoming call labeled delivery. I didn't go looking for proof, but once I saw it, I started treating her lies like a listing: photos, timestamps, addresses, and a closing date. Scottsdale is a town built on shine: stucco walls, iron gates, lemon trees that never struggle, couples who look like they were assembled by a branding agency, and I make a living selling that shine: staging, angles, lighting, the right throw blanket, the right story. From the outside, my marriage was one of my best listings. Tessa and I had the kind of social schedule that looked impressive on Instagram and exhausting in real life: golf, charity stuff, casual, wine nights that were actually networking events, dinners at places where the server uses your first name because you've been there 3 times this month. We lived in a clean, beige, perfectly landscaped pocket of North Scottsdale where the HOA newsletter reads like a courtroom transcript. I believed in the image, until I noticed how hard she'd started protecting it. It began with a phone. Not an upgrade, not a cracked screen replacement, an entire separate number. She called it her work number, said coworkers were blowing up her personal line and it was stressing her out, and she said it the way she said most things lately, already defensive, like she was swatting away questions I hadn't asked. I remember the first time I saw it. I'd come in from my sunrise run along the greenbelt, sweat still cooling under my shirt, head finally quiet. I run because it resets me, because it's the only time I'm not refreshing appointments, not checking messages, not thinking about which client is going to ghost me after a showing. Tessa was in the kitchen wearing one of my old tees, hair up, coffee already poured, domestic, warm, safe, until her phone buzzed on the counter and she snatched it like it was hot. I didn't even see the screen, just the movement, fast, practiced. "You okay?" I asked, out of reflex. "Work," she said, and smiled a beat too late. "I'm gonna take this." And she disappeared into the bathroom. Not our bedroom, not the balcony, not outside, the bathroom, with the fan on. At first I didn't think anything of it. People take calls in private. I've taken calls in my car because clients love dropping life-changing decisions on you while you're sitting in a Costco parking lot. But it became a thing: long stretches, whispering, the sink running, the fan. Then she'd come out bright and normal, like she'd stepped out of a meeting room instead of our bathroom, like I wasn't standing there with my coffee cooling in my hands replaying the muffled tone of her voice behind a locked door. After the 3rd time I said it, "Why are you taking work calls in the bathroom?" She didn't blink. "Because you're always on calls," she said. "And I don't want to bother you." It made no sense, which is usually how I know something is a lie. I spend my days negotiating, reading faces, watching where eyes go when I mention price, listening to what people don't say. People think deception is about words. It's not. It's about patterns. And Tessa's pattern was shifting. A few days later she brought home a second phone. It wasn't flashy, it was deliberately boring: black case, no cute pop socket, no cracked corner, the kind of phone you buy when you don't want it noticed. "It's just easier," she said, tossing it into her purse like it didn't matter. "My team set it up. Separate apps, separate calendar." "Your team," I repeated, because I knew her team: 2 women and a guy who wore loafers with no socks and called everyone boss. She shrugged. "Don't make it weird." That became her phrase: "Don't make it weird," translation: "Don't look too closely." So I didn't, at least not the way she thought. I wasn't digging through her purse. I wasn't checking her location. I wasn't installing anything. I'm not that guy. Besides, in my world, you don't move without documentation, you don't accuse without receipts. Then the receipts showed up on my dashboard. It happened on a Tuesday, busy day, 3 back-to-back showings, and a buyer who insisted they could feel if a home had bad energy. Tessa's SUV was in the garage and my car was blocked in because she'd parked crooked again. She was already gone, early meeting, so I grabbed her keys and backed out. My phone connected automatically, the Bluetooth icon popped up like it always did, and I didn't think twice until the screen flashed: incoming call, delivery. I stared at it like it was a typo I couldn't unsee. The call dropped before I could do anything. 1 second it was buzzing through the speakers, the next it vanished, but the contact name didn't. That was the part that made my stomach sink, the way the car saved it, like it had been there before, like it belonged. At the next red light I hit the phone menu, thumb moving like it does when I refresh my calendar for the 5th time in 10 minutes. Recent calls, delivery, incoming 9:12 a.m., delivery, outgoing yesterday 2:06 p.m., delivery, missed Saturday 6:41 p.m., over and over, spaced out like a heartbeat. I didn't feel dramatic. I felt cold and focused, the way I feel when a deal turns hostile and I realize I'm not talking to a buyer anymore, I'm talking to an opponent. I pulled into an empty corner of a Starbucks lot and scrolled through the car's call log like it was a crime scene timeline. There were other names: massage appointment, PT, client intake, Cheryl work, some real, some maybe planted, and what hit me was the curation, the staging. Like she was arranging her life the way I stage homes, everything in the right place so no one asks what's missing. I took photos of the screen, call log pages, timestamps, the contact name, zoomed in so the date and time were visible. Then I opened our shared calendar, because I live and die by appointments. If it isn't on the calendar, it doesn't exist. And there it was. Tessa had been penciling in massage sessions for weeks, always in the afternoon, always with just enough buffer that I wouldn't question it, always on days she knew I had showing stacked or an open house where I'd be shaking hands and smiling for hours. Massages, sure, but the delivery calls hit those same windows like clockwork. Sitting there in the sun with people strolling by with yoga mats and smoothie cups, I realized something that tightened my throat. This wasn't sloppy, this was planned. When I finally drove to the showing, I performed like I always do, smiled, talked about quartz countertops and natural flow, opened blinds, turned on lights, while that contact name burned in my pocket like a brand. That night Tessa came home with that bright, innocent energy she'd started wearing like perfume. "Hey," she said, leaning in for a kiss. "How were showings?" "Good," I lied smoothly. "Busy." "Good," she said like she was relieved. Then, casual, "I booked a massage for Thursday." I've been so tense. I watched her face, steady eyes, no mouth tightening, the ease of it. I could have confronted her right then, thrown the photos on the counter and asked who delivery was and why he kept showing up in our car log, but I didn't, because I know what happens when you corner someone with half proof. They don't confess, they spin, cry, accuse you of being paranoid, turn it into your fault. I wasn't going to hand her that advantage. So I smiled the same smile I give buyers when they're pretending a cracked foundation is charming character. "Sounds nice," I said. "You deserve it." She relaxed immediately, like my approval completed the illusion, and when she went upstairs with her phone and the bathroom fan hummed again, I opened my notes app and started a list: dates, times, call logs, massages. Patterns don't lie, and if she was planning her lies this carefully, I needed to be more careful with the truth. The name, delivery, wasn't just a clue, it felt like a countdown. I didn't sleep much after that Tuesday, not because I was pacing or sobbing. That's not my style. I lay there staring at the streetlight glow seeping through the shutters, listening to the house settle. Tessa slept like someone with nothing to lose. That's what people don't tell you about betrayal: the calm, the normalcy, the way someone can whisper in a bathroom for 20 minutes and then come out and ask if you want chicken or salmon for dinner. I ran at sunrise the next morning until my lungs burned, past manicured lawns and identical mailboxes and those fake lake fountains. The HOA pays too much money to keep running, like I could outrun the image of delivery blinking on that screen. When I got home I did what I do when something feels unstable, I grabbed the calendar. Kitchen island, my phone in one hand, our shared Google Calendar open on the iPad like a command center. Thursday massage 2:30, next Monday massage 3 o'clock, week after massage 1:45, all during windows she knew I'd be pinned, not just busy. Tessa didn't just lie, she scheduled lies. And the more I stared, the more another pattern clicked. She wasn't just disappearing, she was disappearing in the same direction. Our neighborhood streets loop like a maze. You can turn left, take 2 rights, and end up basically where you started. She always said she was going to the studio, to meet Cheryl, to the spa over by Kierland, but her gas tank was never that low, her hair never smelled like oil or lavender, and her mood afterward wasn't massage relaxed, it was lighter, like someone who'd had something they wanted. That Thursday I decided I wouldn't confront her with suspicions, I'd confront her with something she couldn't shrug away. The morning played out like a scripted scene, coffee, small talk, her phone vibrating face down. She flipped it, saw the screen, thumb darted. "Work," she said automatically. "Of course," I said, calm. She watched me a half-second too long like she was checking for cracks, then smiled, kissed my cheek, and headed upstairs, bathroom, fan, whisper voice, and something in me hardened into a decision I didn't even feel, just accepted, like the moment you realize a deal is dead and your only job now is not getting dragged with it. Around noon I texted, me, "Hey. Quick question. Whose delivery?" A minute passed, then 2. The typing bubble appeared, vanished, appeared again. "Tessa, what?" "Me, the contact in your car. Delivery with a heart." Another long pause. "Tessa, I have no idea what you're talking about." "Me, it popped up when my phone connected. It's in the car log." The bubble danced again. "Tessa, that's weird. Probably some old saved contact from like Uber Eats? Or something. LOL. LOL. I stared at that LOL until it stopped looking like letters and started looking like a slap. I didn't reply yet, I waited until she came home. She walked in around 4:45 carrying a little paper bag like a prop, pulled out a candle and a bottle of wellness, something like she was building a story in real time. "Massage was amazing," she sighed, like she'd practiced it. "I feel like a new person." I leaned against the island and let her talk, always my thing, let people talk, the more they talk, the more they give you. She moved around the kitchen opening cabinets like motion could outrun stillness, her phone stayed glued to her hand. "Babe," she said lightly, "did you eat? I can make something." I said, "Sit down." She froze, not confused, alarmed. "What, too bright?" I pulled up the photos I'd taken of the infotainment screen and slid my phone toward her like a contract. "Who is delivery?" I asked evenly. Her eyes dropped and something flickered across her face, recognition, fear, calculation, then her mouth started forming words before her brain settled on which lie. She began. "Don't," I said, not loud, not angry, just final. "Don't insult me." She swallowed, hand drifting toward the phone like she could delete evidence through sheer willpower. That's not what it looks like," she said immediately. I almost laughed, it was so cliché it offended me on principle. "Okay," I said. "Tell me what it is." She sat slowly, like her knees didn't trust the floor. It's nothing. I mean it was, someone, look, it's stupid. It was a joke contact. A joke contact you call and call back and miss again. Her eyes snapped up. "You've been going through my stuff." There it was, the pivot. In Scottsdale, the first person to look guilty loses, and she was trying to make me the guilty one, turn this into privacy instead of vows. "I drove your car," I said. "My phone connected. Your car saved the call log. I didn't have to snoop. You were sloppy." That word hit her harder than anything, sloppy, because her whole existence was built on never being sloppy. Her face went tight. "Okay, fine. It's a guy from a local service. He delivers like, special stuff." "Special stuff." "Wellness things," she waved a hand like details were beneath her. "Supplements. Oils. I didn't want you to think it was weird. You saved him with a heart." She blinked and tried to smile. "It's just an emoji. You're reading into it." I leaned forward, hands flat on the countertop. Tessa. Stop. Who is he? The bathroom fan could have been on and I still would have heard my heartbeat. She stared at me for a long time, and then the first honest thing she gave me wasn't a confession, it was posture, trapped shoulders, lifted chin, voice turning cold. Why are you doing this? She asked. Not what did I do, not I'm sorry, not please don't, why are you making this hard? That's when I knew. Because I'm not stupid, I said, and because I'm not living in a staged marriage. She scoffed like I'd ruined something for her. You've been different, she snapped. 4 months. Always on your phone, always working, always networking. I felt alone. I nodded slowly. So you got a second number? It's not like that. Then what is it like? She hesitated. He's just someone I talk to. Talk to, I repeated, gentle like you'd coax a skittish animal. A married woman doesn't buy a burner phone to talk. It's not a burner phone. I don't care what you call it. Who is he? Silence, then she stood so fast the chair scraped and started pacing, hands in her hair. You're being crazy, voice shaking. You're twisting everything. I held steady. Name. She stopped pacing and stared at me like she hated me for making her say it, and then she did the thing that made my stomach drop again, she didn't name him, she bargained. What do you want? She asked quietly. Like, what do you want me to say? That question is the moment the marriage dies, not the affair, the question, because it reveals the truth. She didn't see me as a person she'd hurt, she saw me as a problem to manage. I tapped my phone once, another photo, another call log screen. I want the truth, I said. And if I don't get it, I'll find it without you. Her lips parted like she might confess, but instead she went straight to optics. You're going to ruin everything. Not I ruined everything, you're going to ruin everything. Something in me clicked like a deadbolt. No, I said. You did. She grabbed her work phone, stormed upstairs, bathroom door shutting, fan turning on like a reflex, and standing alone in our perfect kitchen with our perfect counters and our staged life, I realized the truth wasn't going to come from her mouth. It was going to come from patterns, addresses, timestamps, and the places she kept disappearing to when she thought I was too busy to notice. So I did what I do best, I started building the case, and I didn't tell her I'd already decided something else too. If she wanted to protect appearances more than our marriage, then I was going to use appearances like a weapon. If you've ever sold a house in Scottsdale, you know the truth is never what people say out loud, it's in the little things, the new paint smell trying to cover water damage, the recently upgraded panel that's actually 20 years old, the way a couple holds hands in the foyer like they're convincing themselves. I stopped listening to Tessa's words and started watching her logistics. She didn't confess, didn't apologize, didn't even get creative after that kitchen night, she just got meaner and doubled down on the massages, leaving with that carefully casual vibe, coming back lighter, smiling at her phone when she thought I wasn't watching, slipping into the bathroom like it was a portal. But she'd made one mistake, she used our shared calendar like it was neutral territory. I started screenshotting everything, massage appointments, fake work meetings, those little blocks of time she carved out like a surgeon, then pulled the car log again and again, photographing, delivery, timestamps, frequency, mapping it all against her calendar. The pattern pointed somewhere specific, not to Kierland, not to a spa, but to a beige mid-rise apartment hotel off a frontage road where people go when they want privacy but don't want to drive all the way to Phoenix. I didn't get the address by stalking her, I got it by noticing what people don't think matters. The first clue was her receipts. Tessa doesn't keep paper receipts, she uses Apple Pay and digital everything, so when I found a printed slip tucked in her gym bag, thin thermal paper folded twice, I knew it wasn't an accident. It wasn't flowers or a boutique, it was a parking validation slip, the kind you use when you don't want a record in your phone. I photographed it and put it back folded the same way. The slip had the garage name on it, that's all I needed. From there it was simple, look up the property, find the adjacent building, cross-reference with the most likely massage windows, drive past on a weekday like I was scouting a neighborhood for a client. I parked across the street and waited. I didn't wait long. At 2:41 her SUV turned into the garage like it belonged there. At 2:47 another vehicle pulled in behind her, a gray Lexus, newish, clean, expensive enough to say, I'm responsible, the kind of car a quiet family guy drives. I took photos, not like a creep hanging out a window, but like I was photographing a potential investment property, wide shots, plate visible, time stamp. Then a man got out, mid-40s, fit in that dad who has time to work out way, polo tucked in, wedding ring glinting, nothing about him screaming scandal. He looked like half the men in my brokerage, and then my stomach turned because he also looked like my neighbor, 2 doors down the cul-de-sac. Evan. Evan and his wife Brooke hosted the block party last fall. He grilled, she did the magazine cover charcuterie, 2 kids on scooters up and down the street. Evan was the polite driveway waver, the how's business guy, the HOA volunteer, the quiet family brand. I didn't move. I watched him walk toward the elevator entrance, and then, 5 minutes later, Tessa came out of the garage door like she'd rehearsed it, sunglasses on, hair messy in that intentional way, moving fast but not frantic. She didn't look around because she didn't think she had to. They entered separately, and in that moment the betrayal stopped being only personal, it became geographic, inside our cul-de-sac, behind the same HOA gates, under the same fake lake fountain. I drove home and didn't say a word that night, not because I was noble, because I was strategic. If I confronted her with, I saw you, she'd tighten security, switch locations, change names, delete logs. If I stayed calm, she'd keep scheduling lies like clockwork. So I let her keep talking about massages while I built the file. I created a cloud folder with a boring name, Tax Docs 2025, and organized everything like a listing package, calendar screenshots, every massage, every meeting, every oddly timed block, car log photos, delivery calls, timestamps, frequency, the garage slip, license plate photos, building photos, a written timeline with one rule, no speculation, only observable facts. I refused to be emotional in a way that could be used against me. Then I made the second move, legal first, always. I called a divorce attorney I knew through a broker friend, one of those women who wears black like armor and talks in bullet points. Her office smelled like lemon cleaner and consequences. She looked at my timeline, barely blinking. Has she admitted to anything? No. Good, she said, which wasn't what I expected, then tapped my screenshots. You've got enough to show a pattern, but Arizona's no fault. What matters is what you can protect now. Separate accounts, reduce joint exposure, document assets, change passwords, don't tip her off, and don't do anything stupid, no threats, no property damage, no public scene. I understood perfectly, people in my world don't win by screaming, they win by moving quietly and leaving the other side with no leverage. Over the next week I did exactly what she told me, new bank account, commission deposits rerouted, joint credit limits reduced, business passwords updated, separate email for legal correspondence, and I kept smiling at Tessa over dinner like nothing had changed. She noticed and tested me with little questions, did you change something with the Wi-Fi? And I gave her easy non-answers she could accept because pushing would mean looking too closely. Then came the part I'd been saving, the neighbor's wife. Brooke. I didn't show up like a man in a Lifetime movie with rage and an open folder, I waited for timing, because Scottsdale is all about timing. I caught Brooke on a Tuesday morning after my sunrise run, loading lunch boxes into her SUV, Evan not there. I walked across like I was being neighborly. Morning. Hey. How's it going? Do you have 5 minutes? Her smile faltered. Is everything okay? Not really, I said. But I don't want to do this on a driveway. Inside her house, same perfect counters, staged pillows, framed family photos, we sat at her kitchen island. She crossed her arms. You're scaring me. I'm not here to scare you, I said. I'm here to give you information. Straight facts. I slid my phone across the counter, Evan getting out of his Lexus at the garage entrance, then his plate, then the building sign. I watched her face drain. "What is this?" she whispered. "Your husband," I said softly, going into an apartment hotel during times that match my wife's calendar, massage appointments. She shook her head, still in that calm shock. "No. Evan would never," I let her say it. "People need to say the version of reality they're about to lose." Then I added, "There's more," and pulled up the car log photos, delivery repeated calls, timestamps aligning with the same windows. Her hand flew to her mouth. "That's your wife?" "Yes." A tear slid down her cheek. "Why are you telling me?" "Because you deserve to know," I said, and surprised myself by meaning it, "and because I'm not doing the messy version of this." "Clean," she echoed, half sob, half disbelief. I told her I had spoken to an attorney and documented everything, that I wasn't asking her to confront him for me, just asking her to protect herself, and if she needed proof for her own decisions, I'd share what I had without exaggeration. She stared at the photos, then reached for her phone with shaking hands. "I need to see everything." I opened the folder: timeline, calendar screenshots, validation slip, call logs, pattern. Every time her breath hitched, I felt that ugly mix of satisfaction and grief because it wasn't just revenge, it was demolition. She asked if I had anything that proved they were together, and I told her I had alignment, same location, same time windows, repeated, not a kissing photo, but enough to make a decision. Then she looked up, eyes red but suddenly sharp. "What do we do?" I didn't expect "we," but there it was, two people on the wrong end of someone else's secret forming a small alliance in a kitchen full of staged family photos. "We do it the right way," I said. "Quietly gather what you need, bank statements, anything suspicious, I'll keep documenting, we don't tip them off until both of us are protected." "He's going to lie." "Of course he is," I said. "That's what people do when their image is threatened." She nodded once, hard, and I saw steel under the polish. We spent an hour moving like professionals through a crisis. She pulled up their shared accounts, I pointed out what to screenshot and download before it vanished, we made a list of dates to check against statements, flagged anything that didn't fit. She found a hotel charge and went very still. "Save it," I said. When I stood to leave, she walked me to the door like a ghost, grabbed my sleeve, and asked, "Small, are you sure?" I didn't soften it. "I'm sure." Outside, the Scottsdale sun was ridiculous, birds chirping, sprinklers hissing, a landscaper blowing dust like the world wasn't ending on our cul-de-sac. I walked back to my house and saw Tessa's SUV in the driveway, like nothing had shifted. She didn't know the narrative had already moved, because now it wasn't just me with a folder, it was me and the woman whose life Evan had been quietly burning down, and once Brooke pulled that thread, Evan's quiet family guy image was going to unravel in front of the exact people he built it for. For a while after that, I moved like a man wearing body armor, I answered emails, returned calls, joked through inspections, because the professional version of me knew how to keep a neutral face. But then it got quiet, and quiet is where the truth lives. Tessa kept taking calls in the bathroom, fan on, whisper voice, and I stood in our bedroom staring at her dresses lined up by color and felt grief for the image I helped build, dinners, vacations, the way people looked at us like we were the couple everyone wanted to be. I'd sold my own life like a product, and now I couldn't return it. I ran before dawn, the neighborhood softer under streetlights, and still I couldn't outrun the details, the heart emoji, "Don't make it weird, what do you want me to say?" Back in my driveway I watched Evan's house, garage closed, yard perfect, no sign of crisis, and I thought about how many times we'd waved at each other while our spouses made fools of us. That's when the anger showed up, not the wall-punching kind, the clean kind that makes you dangerous because it's quiet, the kind that makes you open spreadsheets and separate assets while your wife asks what you want for dinner. The first crack hit at an open house that weekend, champagne and plastic flutes, people snooping, me selling, flow, while Tessa played optics, white dress, perfect smile, hand on my forearm at the right time so everyone could see we were solid. Someone asked our secret. Tessa laughed and said, "We just prioritize each other," and my throat tightened so hard I had to step into the pantry and stand in the dark with my palms against shelves until the humiliation passed. Betrayal isn't only heartbreak, it's being used as a prop in someone's double life, realizing you were the safe base they came home to after they did whatever they wanted. That night Brooke texted, "He's denying everything, saying you're trying to ruin him, saying your wife is unstable, she can't breathe." I called her and told her the truth. Of course he's lying, he's counting on her wanting it to be anything else. After we hung up, sadness came, not for the marriage I had, but for the one I thought I had, for the version of Tessa I believed in. I caught myself sliding towards self-blame because it feels like control, but patterns don't lie, and the pattern here wasn't husband too busy, it was wife who wanted something else and didn't have the guts to ask honestly. Over the next week my emotions cycled, anger when she smiled at a text, disgust when she touched my arm in public, grief when I saw her asleep and remembered I used to feel safe next to her, then numbness that scared me most because numbness felt like the real ending. One night she tried to pull me back in, said I'd been distant. I said I was thinking. She asked about what, soft but guarded. I looked at her and said, about whether you even want to be here. She snapped that of course she did. Then stop disappearing, I said. She went defensive, she's allowed to have things. Sure, I said, just not secret lives. She froze, then did what she always did when cornered, called me paranoid, said I was spiraling, said it was embarrassing. That word landed like a blade, and instead of rage I felt something settle, heavy, calm, definitive, because someone who loved you wouldn't call your pain embarrassing, and someone who respected you wouldn't treat your questions like a PR problem. That night I stared at our shared calendar and realized I'd been refreshing it obsessively like it held answers. It didn't, it held her lies. So I created a new private calendar and started putting my own life on it, meet with attorney, move funds, change locks date, file papers, and one small human line in the middle, sunrise run, no phone, because under the cynicism and optics I could feel the real truth forming. I wasn't losing control, I was taking it back, and the next step wasn't going to be emotional, it was going to be final. The decision wasn't one dramatic moment, it was tiny irreversible choices made quietly while Tessa kept pretending we were still a couple. The first time she said, massage, after I'd built the file and talked to my attorney, I felt nothing, clean detachment, and that's how I knew I was done, not because love switched off, but because belief did, and you can't negotiate your way back into trust once belief is gone. I filed the following Monday. My attorney did it fast and clean, the paperwork that tells both parties not to drain accounts or get cute. Tessa had built her entire affair around the assumption that if she kept optics clean, consequences would stay theoretical. So I let her have one last massage, because timing mattered and my attorney had been clear, don't tip her off until you're protected. That Thursday she kissed my cheek and left with her second phone already in her hand, and I watched her drive away from the kitchen window with my heartbeat slow and steady. Then I did my own appointment, the one on my private calendar, process server. We met at a strip mall coffee shop that smelled like sunscreen and espresso. I handed him her photo, vehicle description, our address, best time window. I didn't ask him to make her pay, I just said, I need it clean, and he nodded like he'd heard it 1,000 times. At 4:52 I saw the white sedan roll slow down our street, saw the man with a folder, heard the knock, 3 taps, professional and final. She wasn't home yet, so he asked if Tessa was there. I smiled Scottsdale polite and said no, but that's my wife, and he left without a scene. Tessa came home at 5:23 with that lighter-than-air energy, sunglasses on her head, cheeks faintly flushed, started to say hey, then saw the envelope my attorney delivered and her smile died. What is that? Divorce papers. She stared like it was a foreign language. Then she got angry, like divorce required her permission. She tried to reduce it to a contact name, to paranoia, to spying. 2 months ago that might have hooked me, now it didn't. I told her it wasn't about a contact name, it was the second number, the bathroom whispers, the scheduled massages, the lies to my face while she used our calendar as cover. She tried the old tactic again, but the mask slipped and what showed through wasn't fear of losing me, it was fear of losing stability. "You're going to ruin me," she whispered, and I said the only honest thing, "You ruined you. I'm just refusing to cover it up." She tried tears, tried mistake, and I said a mistake is forgetting an anniversary, this was planned, repeated, scheduled. I asked for his name. Silence, because saying it would make it real. So I said, quietly, "I already know. And so does his wife." Her face went white. She accused me of having no right, and I nodded once, neither did she. That was the moment she stopped looking at me like a husband and started looking at me like an enemy, and it was also the moment I felt free. Over the next 2 weeks, everything unfolded the way patterns do when you stop interrupting them. Brooke moved fast, gathered her proof, got her attorney, shut her front door on Evan, and his Lexus stopped appearing at odd hours. The neighborhood noticed, not because anyone cared about truth, but because everyone cares about story. Evan's collapse wasn't loud, but it was total: no HOA meetings, no easy driveway waves, no curated family posts. Tessa tried to pivot, raged, called me controlling, tried to seed a narrative that I'd snapped, but she couldn't keep it straight because she never expected to need one. Then she tried to secure her landing, disappearing into the bathroom again with a whisper voice that sounded panicked now, sitting in her car with the engine off staring at her phone like she was waiting for someone to save her. One night she came downstairs with wet eyes and said, "He's not leaving his wife." I didn't ask who he was. I just nodded like I'd expected the obvious. She looked smaller, not innocent, not sympathetic, just cornered by consequences. "What am I supposed to do?" she whispered. I let silence sit, then said, "Figure it out, because that's what adults do, and it's what I've been doing while she scheduled lies." The divorce wasn't screaming, it was paperwork, disclosures, negotiations. It was me documenting assets like a seller's packet, my attorney shutting down anything that smelled like manipulation. We split what the law required, but I protected what I could: business, commissions, credit, sanity, and documented waste, because affairs aren't just emotional theft, they're financial too. The day she moved out, the house felt hollow before it felt peaceful. She packed, no dramatic goodbye, no last hug, and at the door she paused like she expected me to fold, like I'd run after her and agree to pretend it never happened. I didn't move. I just said, "Take care," and she left. After that I ran at sunrise with no phone like I promised myself. The sky turned that soft pink-orange that makes everything look forgiving, mountains watching indifferent. I ran past Evan's house and saw curtains drawn tight, Brooke's car in the driveway, his missing, and what I felt wasn't joy, it was closure. Because revenge, the real kind, isn't screaming or public humiliation, it's living well while the people who played games realize you stopped playing. A month later at a rooftop networking event, a guy leaned in and said he'd heard about my neighbor. I shrugged and said people make choices. He studied my face like he was trying to find scandal in it and asked if I was okay. I smiled, small, real, and said, "Yeah. I'm good," because for the first time in a long time it wasn't optics. It was the truth.